Coming up on today's show, we will take a look at some Bengals trade targets. The NFL trade deadline inside of 2 weeks away on October 31st. And historically speaking, the Bengals have pretty much never been active at the trade deadline, but this team can make some noise as they have the past few seasons in the playoffs. Will they be aggressive for the first time in a while? Even add just a minor piece. Some areas of concern I think you could potentially look at. Running back behind Joe Mixon still stands out. I think there's one obvious solution. Tight end is not being utilized at all right now by Cincinnati. The offensive line, that left guard spot's not been too great. Defensive line can always do with some upgrades. And I'll at least mention safety. Nick Scott's not been that great, but you have Jordan Battle. That's, I think, a pretty clear fifth as far as I'm concerned. And if you guys are looking forward to the show, if you like what we do here at Bengals Breakdown, help us out by sharing today's video, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, texting it to a friend, whatever. The more shares we get, the more views we get, the more subscribers we get, and the more videos we can do. Help us out by sharing today's video right now. First up is Samaje Perine. Now, we've already talked about Perine on a previous video, which is not, we won't go too far into it as a result. I think it makes a ton of sense. That third down back roll, which the Bengals made such a big deal in camp in the preseason, doesn't exist anymore because Trayvon Williams, Chase Brown, Chris Evans have not stepped up. We know Perine can fit that mold, and he's already down to the third running back on the Broncos roster. He's fallen out of favor already. I think a late day 3 pick swap at most, maybe just a straight day 3 pick, is all it would take to acquire Perine. There's no guaranteed money next year. Yeah, sure, you need that 6th round pick to draft Chase Brown, who's not helping you, right? Go get somebody who is helping you this season. I think Samaje Perine is a great trade idea for the Bengals. I'd love to see that one go down, and I think it's realistic. You're not asking too much either. Now, we know historically it's like a 2% chance they do it. So what is the percent chance that the Bengals actually make a trade this year at the NFL trade deadline? This will be today's pinned comment, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. We'll group these next two players together because not only are they the same position, they're the same team. It is Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki, both of them for the New England Patriots. Both, I think, would give you an upgrade over the very disappointing room you've had with Irv Smith, etc. for Cincinnati. The numbers so far this year, Hunter Henry has been better. More targets, more catches, more yards. He's just been a more yards per catch too. He's also a better blocker than Mike Gesicki is, but the money's also a factor. The total contracts this year due in cash, $2 million for Gesicki, $10.5 for Hunter Henry. And the Bengals wouldn't owe all of it. They would owe what's called the pro-rated amount. Basically, what's left, right? You take that $10.5 million number, divide by 17, multiply it again, half-ish. It's like $1 million and change for Gesicki and 6-ish for Hunter Henry. Still a little bit pricey for a team that doesn't want to spend big money. Now, maybe what you could do is that the Patriots eat some of that contract. It would also require a bigger pick going back. So of these two tight ends, who would you rather trade for? HH for Hunter Henry, MG for Mike Gesicki. Sound off for me in the comment section right now. Let's stick with the tight end options. Another fairly expensive one is Zach Ertz of the Arizona Cardinals. He's not the guy you remember in his prime. He's missed some time with injuries over the past few seasons, and the average yards per catch have really begun to dip. He's much more of a check down underneath option than he was he's never been a breaking tackle guy. I mean, this is one of the least broken tackle players. There used to be a Twitter account dedicated to, did Zach Ertz break a tackle? And it was just constant no's. But it's a check down option, safety valve. Something tells me Burrow would trust him more than he trusts Irv Smith right now. The money's also a big problem here. He's due $9.1 million this season. The Cardinals would have to eat at least some of that, and they might be willing to because Trey McBride is waiting in the wings for Arizona, and at a certain point, this team, Arizona, I should say, is going to have to find a way to spend some playing time for the young pieces. A familiar face is next up here, CJ Uzomah of the New York Jets. He's kind of a backup right now in New York. He's due $3.5 million. He's still playing, but trading him would allow the Jets to free up playing time for Jeremy Ruckert, which might be in their best short-term and long-term interest. The stats so far, simply put, he has not been worth what the Jets paid him. 25 catches, 3 scores, and 250-ish yards. That's not what they gave him. But even his 2021 production for Cincinnati, which was under 500 yards, is a hell of a lot better than what they've gotten so far out of that tight end room. And you know that Burrow would trust him. I actually think this is a decent, cheap option, cheap alternative. Again, I think it'd be a pretty cheap deal as long as the Jets are willing to give up on him. And as they're somewhat contenders right now, reunions could make some sense for Cincinnati. Now, today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It is just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, the pros, the sharks, etc., you simply pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. They are the largest independently owned DFS platform in North America. You can bet NFL. You can have picks on NFL, college football, mix and match them as well. Here are my prize picks for the week. I'm doing the flex play to try to keep my chances a little bit better of winning since I've been on a bit of a cold streak lately. Although I did get the flex play right last week. Tyreek Hill, 1 touchdown. Michael Pittman, less than receiving yards because the Browns defense is stupid good. And Lamar Jackson, more than passing yards. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS for that first deposit match up to $100. Some more trade targets. How about Rashaad Penny of the Philadelphia Eagles? This is a guy who has not done that much in Philadelphia. I thought he might have a big-time season because when healthy, Penny has shown some very impactful stuff. He's really good in Seattle back in 2022, but then he's had 3 carries for 9 yards all season. He's not doing anything. A change of scenery could help him, and maybe he could give you at least some breathing time for Joe Mixon. Tough to find viable offensive linemen. The Bengals have depth, but it's not really starting caliber depth. Ben Bartch on this list. He's kind of lost his job in Jacksonville. Again, he was not playing that well. It's the reason why he's kind of been replaced as the Jags got some of the pieces back along the offensive line, to be fair. But his draft capital was invested into him by Jacksonville. Again, it's not easy to find these guys. Jags might prefer to keep him, but I did want to find one offensive lineman as a viable replacement for Cordell Volson, or at least possibly viable replacement. Now, do you want more free Bengals YouTube videos? If you do, you've come to the right spot. Hit that sub button right now, right here, youtube.com/BengalsTV. Another reunion. How about Carl Lawson? Look, Joseph Asai, Miles Murphy, those guys are not contributing, even though you were kind of hoping that they were going to contribute. Now, Lawson has not contributed either in New York. He's buried on a really, really good Jets pass rushing unit. Bryce Huff is one of the best pass rushers from an efficiency standpoint in college football. There's Jermaine Johnson. There's John Franklin Myers is a good piece for them. There's Will McDonald. They spent a 4th-round pick on Michael Clemens. Lawson's the odd man out. That's why he's only played in 4 games, 3 tackles so far this year. If you don't trust Asai, you don't trust Miles to help you this year, Lawson's a great short-term fill-in. So of the 3 former Bengals we discussed on today's show, pick one to bring back. CL for Carl Lawson, CJ for CJ Uzomah, or SP for Samaje Perine. Go vote in the comments. A safety, I had a tough time finding other options, and most of these guys are cheaper, so I'll give you some big names, right? Justin Simmons, I think these next 2 guys are bordering on the not going to happen list, but let's have some fun. A great football player. He'd help your defense out tremendously. A massive upgrade over Nick Scott. He's also due $14.4 million this year, and that's going to be a non-starter for Cincinnati. He might get moved, but a team like Philadelphia might be more aggressive for Simmons. And the next name on our list. That is Budda Baker, who is, I think, going to set to return this week. He was designated to return from IR. He's back practicing, talking with the media, so all signs point to him returning this week. He's due $13.1 million. You know, the Bengals, and again, prorated him out, blah, blah, blah. Bengals weren't going to pay that for Jesse Bates. I don't think they're going to pay that for Baker or for Justin Simmons either. So name a player who you would like to see the Cincinnati Bengals trade for at this year's NFL trade deadline. Drop that player name or those player names in the comment section for me right now. We'll go quicker on these 5 names. Don't get your hopes up. Derrick Henry. I'd be shocked if the Bengals spent the type of draft capital, contract capital to get him or to get Saquon Barkley. Those guys could maybe be dealt if those teams continue to bottom out over the course of the next few games or few weeks until the Halloween trade deadline. Don't get your hopes up there. Darren Waller, I don't think the Giants are going to bail on so quickly. Contract's not that bad, though. I would have interest. Everyone wants Patrick Surtain. Yes, every fan base, who they want? Oh, Surtain. Let's get Patrick Surtain on our roster. Denver has no reason to trade him. I've seen the argument, they want to get draft capital. Okay, they're going to have a high pick then. They're not good enough. Doesn't make sense to trade away a core piece. And I will mention Aaron Donald, too. Wouldn't it be nice? If he were available, all in. Go for it. I think the Rams are going to be just competitive enough, though, that they're not going to be sellers at this year's NFL trade deadline. As fun as it would be, don't get your hopes up for those 5 guys.